Every time I defend capitalism, some idiot points at the board game Monopoly and says that is an accurate representation of what's wrong with capitalism. They claim capitalism is essentially just a bunch of people hogging the wealth, buying up all the businesses and property until it's all eventually owned by one man. This couldn't be further from the truth, though. The main flaw with the logic behind the Monopoly board game is when you land on a square in a Monopoly, you lose money and gain nothing in return, but the ability to exist for that one turn. In real life, when you do business with a company, you spend money, usually get something in return. Whether it be gold, food, appliances, water, electricity, what have you, you get something of equal value or more value in return. It's kind of hard to go bankrupt and lose everything you own to other players when both sides equally benefit. If this reality was transferred to the board game Monopoly, it would be impossible to bankrupt other players, steal their resources and businesses, and win the game. Basically taking the monopoly right out of Monopoly. Now, another major flaw with the board game Monopoly is every time you land on a square, you are forced to do business with one business and one business only. You are forced to do business with this one company and pay whatever price they choose. That's not how real life works. In real life, there isn't just one company that offers that particular product, there is several. So there is something called competition that keeps the prices as low as humanly possible. This keeps capitalism and every spot on the board you land on from exploiting you. If one company says it's $3,000 to stay there for that night, another company will gladly take their business and do it for half the price. Then another company will gladly do it for half the price of the last guy. Suddenly, instead of paying $3,000 to stay on that square, it's really $60. If this was represented in the board game Monopoly, it would virtually be impossible to go bankrupt and lose, making the game Monopoly impossible to win and lose. Again, taking the monopoly out of the game Monopoly. Now, you may say a monopoly can form if the dominant company buys all the businesses, all the competitors in the market for that product. When everyone is so competitive with pricing and features on their products, it can be very difficult to completely dominate the industry. But not only that, if a company did somehow dominate the industry and got enough money to buy off their competitor, it's for one, insanely expensive. Doing it once is going to almost bankrupt them. But not only that, they can't do it again. They can't buy off all the competitors. They could probably buy off one, but buying off the other, 5 isn't going to happen. Yeah, a company can buy a competitor, but buying off all the competitors that ever come out, ever, would definitely bankrupt any company in any industry. And if word got out that the company's buying off all the competitors, then businesses would pop up out of the woodwork just to get bought out and make a fortune. Definitely bankrupting the company that was trying to achieve a complete monopoly. What's funny is the game doesn't illustrate the problems with capitalism as much as it does the government. There's a reason Fidel Castro ordered all Cuban Monopoly sets destroyed, and the Soviet Union has banned the game. Imagine landing on a square, you pay a fee and get nothing in return. Sounds a lot like taxes, doesn't it? You may say, well, taxes you get something in return too, just like capitalism. Not really. I'm sure there is something the government is paying for that you don't agree with. For example, the war on drugs, or a war overseas, or abortion, or the death penalty. No matter where you lean politically, the government is making you pay for something that you deem to be murder. The government spending your money on stuff you hate is worse than throwing it away, because it goes towards stuff you disagree with and loathe. That's thievery to say the least. If you envision every square of Monopoly to be a tax that promotes something you disagree with, you will quickly see that government takes and takes and takes without giving anything in return until there's nothing you have left financially. Government is essentially a monopoly itself, by the way, because everything it takes over, well, there's no competitors. That is, by definition, what a monopoly is. The only thing that can create a real monopoly is government. This is a fact. The game Monopoly also does a great job mimicking the government-regulated banking sector, as the game comes with a single central bank. They have the ability to inflate the currency, and they have rules restricting lending competition. Basically, the government has a monopoly on the money. Okay, so I think I accurately described the problems with the game Monopoly. Also, the game is literally socialist propaganda. The precursor to this game, Monopoly, is called the landlord's game, and it was invented and patented by Elizabeth Magie. She tried selling it to the Parker brothers, but they weren't interested. Now, Pennsylvania's Wharton Finance School used it as a teaching device, but we all know what it really is: socialist propaganda. Now, it remained in schools for years as socialist propaganda, and that's how it began its life. Now, over time, people started adding their own rules to the game and started developing what we know today as Monopoly. Eventually, somebody gave it the name Monopoly and patented it and gave it its own official rule set, which differentiates it from the original Landlord's game enough to make it its own thing. And they got very rich from it. And that's how Monopoly was invented. It started life as a freaking socialist propaganda tool. And if you ask me, that's what it remains today as, a socialist propaganda tool. If you found this video useful or helpful, please let me know in the comments. And please share this video. I'll catch you on the next episode. Penis.